And so when the ego brings us this idea that like things have to be perfect or have to be sorted or have to be in a certain way before we can step forward, it's because it doesn't really want us to step forwards, because it's scared. Bless it. It's scared.
Hello, it's me, Jo Norton. Yes, I am talking to you from the bathtub, my favourite place to be, where I am most in flow. So why not hop in and join me? The water's warm, the bubbles are high, and we are tapping in to mind, body, and soul. Oh, hang on, just a quick caution. There's likely to be swearing. That's just what happens when I'm excited and in the flow. So if you've got sensitive ears, you might want to scroll on by. See you in the tub.
So just as I was about to hit record today, suddenly this noise started outside, right? I don't know if you can hear it now. I can still hear it, but it is the noise of, I'm assuming someone's like trimming a hedge or something like that with some like a big electric strimmer. And so it's making some crazy noise. And so of course, my mind brings me the lovely thought, hey, Jo, is it a good idea for us to record an episode right now? Jo, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly how you want it to be. And so that is what I'm guided to talk about right now. As this background noise of hedge trimming is going on around me, I'm going to allow myself to notice that not everything is exactly perfect. And yes, for anyone just listening right now and not actually seeing me in my glorious bathtub, I am doing air quotes. I'm doing the bunny ears around the word perfect, because I mean, what does that even mean, right? But I'm going to recognize that my mind does love to bring me the program that says things have to be a certain way in order to move forwards. I'm also going to recognize that for me, it's one that I have actually done a lot of work on, a lot of releasing. And so I hear that voice so much less now. And if you've tuned into any of my other Tub Talks episodes, I know in one of them, I literally talk about the fact that we often think we're meant to be deleting those mind programs. And fundamentally, can they be completely released? Absolutely, they can. But if we kind of feel like we have to totally delete them in order to step forward, that's just another mind program in and of itself. That's just another way that our ego is trying to keep us, bless it, beautifully safe, but it doesn't quite recognize that it's not truly serving our whole self, like the whole of us, right? And so that mind program that I used to be brought a lot, that like, it has to be perfect. We can't step forward until it's perfect. It has to be this certain way. It has to meet my expectations for it. That mind program actually now is something I'd probably refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist. In fact, I'm saying that and now I can hear my higher self going, that's not even true, Jo. Even that's not true now. No. The perfection program has pretty much been released. And so just because there was a thought that said, oh, Jo, really, is it a good idea? Is it a good idea to record this now? That it's because it's not going to be perfect, potentially because there could be background noise, which you're not probably even hearing, right? It's just me that's hearing it. Just because that voice came up does not mean that I believe it. It doesn't mean I believe it, right? It doesn't actually mean I believe it, because I get to choose. And when I choose, it can pop up and I can go, hi there, little voice. That's not actually me. That's just a tiny part of myself, and actually fundamentally a tiny part of my old self just popping up. And so I love that my higher self, thank you, higher self. Thank you, soul. I love that she's just showing me right now that that's not actually a program that I'm running anymore. But potentially it's a program that you have been running, are running, or potentially this is a moment for you to go, hang on, my higher self, my soul is also saying that this is no longer me, that this isn't who I am either. And that could be a really powerful moment just to be able to claim that, right? This idea that things have to be a certain way before we step forwards, we know where it comes from, right? We know where it comes from. It is that scared part of ourself. It is that ego part of ourself. And I'm just going to remind us again, and I'm going to do this almost every time I say the word ego in an episode of Tub Talks. Ego is not bad. Bless it. The ego is simply this human mind and body. It's our humanness. It's our identity. It's what we might call our personality. It is who we think we are. It is a mixture of programs and patterns and judgments of those programs and patterns, but all in order to preserve, to protect, to keep us safe. It just sometimes gets things confused, or it's learned that the easiest way to keep us safe is actually by keeping us small and by stopping us from stepping forwards. And so we just want to recognize that, right? And so when the ego brings us this idea that like things have to be perfect or have to be sorted or have to be in a certain way before we can step forward, it's because it doesn't really want us to step forwards, because it's scared. Bless it. It's scared. It's saying, please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. The ego is the part of us that is all of our kind of versions of self, of human self. It is our inner child at all of her different ages. It is like the teenage, like there's the teenage ego. I often notice my teenage ego wanting to come out and play and like get a bit grumpy and throw a bit of a strop, but not in the way that like a 4-year-old child would throw a tantrum, in that really like teenager way of just being, you know, very passive aggressive about it, right? Not so obvious about it. The ego is all of those parts of self that still want to be seen, still want to be heard, often because we haven't truly taken the time and space to allow them to be seen and heard. We're constantly pushing them away and saying, no, you're wrong. No, you're a terrible part of me. No, that just hurts too much. No, you know, like, fuck off now. Actually, those parts of self are going to keep coming up and keep coming up and keep coming up until they're truly seen and heard. Until they're truly seen and heard and shown some love. It's like that 4-year-old child, like pulling on, you know, its mum's trouser leg, going, mummy, 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 mummy. And what often happens there, right, is that you as the mummy, you as the mother, or you know, that person whose child's doing that, is that once they finally turn to look at the child, to look at them, to see them and say, yes, my love. Yes, my love. What is it you want? The child kind of just goes, no, nothing. I'm kind of okay now. Or like, you know, make something up. Oh, a drink, a biscuit. I'll have a biscuit. Thank you. Actually, all that child and that child representing our egoic child inside, that inner child, all that he or she or they want is to be truly seen. And the moment they're truly seen, they go, oh, they breathe out. They recognize they're okay. And so that's a massively important thing for us to do when we recognize that that's coming up inside us. So this program, this pattern of I have to have everything perfect, all of my ducks have to be in a row, everything has to be like sorted and meeting my expectations before I can step forward, is simply that child, maybe that teenager, that part of ourselves that is scared of what it might mean as we step forward, as we kind of jump out into the world, as we become visible. One of the questions that I've received a number of times actually since episode 1 of Tub Talks, and firstly, please keep sending me your beautiful questions. I have kind of made a bit of a pact with myself that I'm never going to come into this from a place of, right, what does my mind say I should talk about today? Oh, I will answer that person's question. But what, as you can probably tell, has happened now is that I'm allowing myself to, when I'm in the flow and naturally that guidance has been brought saying, oh, Jo, there was a question on this, then I'm absolutely going to answer all of these wonderful questions that I'm getting. So please do keep sending them to me. And the question that has come a number of times since episode 1 was asking why we are actually so much more afraid of success than we are of failure. And actually the question was framed in a way kind of saying, I don't really get that. Like, I don't feel like I'm more scared of success than failure. These wonderful people reached out and said, I actually feel like it's more failure that I'm scared of. And so can you explain that? And I totally hear you. Firstly, I see you, I hear you, I totally do. Because for so long, I truly believed that it was my failure I was most scared of. I believed that it was my darkness I was most scared of, that it was my failure I was most scared of, that it was falling that I was most scared of. And actually, the more and more I've connected with myself, the more and more I also understand how this beautiful mind of ours works and this body in response to it and the soul works, is that it does tend to be, and it doesn't have to for you, but it does tend to be that program that says I'm scared of failure is kind of almost like a bit of a sneaky cover up for what we're truly scared of. It's like the ego's easiest way to keep us kind of standing still and almost kind of stuck by saying, oh, you might fail, you might fail, you might fail. And classically, we've been conditioned to believe that failure is this like terrible thing. And so it's like, it's just bringing us that voice because that's going to apparently keep us standing where we are. But the ego does not necessarily tell the truth, right? Bless it. It doesn't necessarily tell the truth. It's just trying to say whatever it feels like is going to be the easiest thing to stop us in our tracks. And so often that you might fail voice that comes in is just covering over what's really going on. And what's really going on is that our ego self, and it is only our ego self. So when I say, you know, that we're more afraid of success than we are of failure, fundamentally, I don't mean we, me, I, from my soul, is not afraid of either. It doesn't even entertain either, really. I mean from ego. So that beautiful Marianne Williamson quote that I referred to in episode 1 of Tub Talks about how it's not truly our darkness that scares us, it's our light, it's our success, it's the fact that we are powerful beyond measure. The we there, the me there, the I, the you in that context is only the egoic part of ourselves. And the reason why is because our ego, our human self, our identity, our mind and body self is actually so much more familiar with failure. And that might sound like a bit of a shitty thing to say, but I'm going to say it. actually failure feels like this thing that, yeah, I've done that before. I've done that before. And the reason why we're more familiar with it is not necessarily because we've had more failures than we've had successes. In fact, it's not that at all. It is simply because the mind is geared to look for the negative before it looks for the positive. In order to keep us safe, it's looking for the tiger in the bushes that, you know, might jump out and eat us before it is looking for the beautiful sunshine in the sky. It's looking for the negative first. And so therefore, we become, as humans, we become more familiar with that energy and that sense of failure than we do with success. And familiarity and certainty and just this is how it is absolutely key for our ego self. That's what it wants. It's like we're safe in this familiarity. We're safe in this certainty. We know how things pan out. And so from that place, it's like looking for more of that, right? It's looking for more of that rather than looking for the success. So when I feel this beautiful sense of success, when we feel like this light, when we feel this flow, when we feel this beautiful bliss, this joy, this freedom, when we feel all of those things, when something wonderful happens, when we create something wonderful, yeah, we feel great. But notice how often that feeling doesn't seem to last as long as we imagined it might. Often that feeling can feel almost like an anticlimax to some degree because we're very quickly moving on to the next thing. Or sometimes it actually feels very hollow. We imagined we'd feel really good in this apparent success, but we feel quite hollow. And it's because our conditioned mind, our ego, has been looking more for the failure, for the negative, looking more for that familiarity than it has for the positive. And so we're just not really trained in it yet. Until we seriously step up for ourselves and do the work, which is the work that I do with people, which is the work that I do with myself, to train my mind and body to be comfortable with the discomfort, comfortable with the discomfort that actually can come through both failure and success, to train ourselves to redefine what those things actually mean for us as we step forward, so that we can allow ourselves more of this beautiful feeling of success, whatever that means for you, whatever success means for you. And so from that place, we can actually start to step forwards more on purpose, more wide awake. We can step forward in a place that feels more aligned, and we can truly allow ourselves to experience the success without having what often comes, which is that kind of quick moving on to something else, or that hollowness around it, or, and this does happen, I'm just going to call it out there. It doesn't have to happen, but it does often happen, where after a great success, after feeling really fucking good, something bad feels like it happens, it comes to us, we feel something that's not great, we experience something that doesn't feel good. Things start to turn to shit. It's a phrase people have said to me before, right? Why are things starting to turn to shit now, Joe? I thought I'd got there. I thought I'd achieved it. I thought I was here. I was there. I was at that place. That is why. That statement in and of itself, I thought I'd got there, Joe. I thought I'd found the answer to life itself. I thought I had achieved happiness and success, and here I was on the top of the fucking mountain, gonna live on the top of this mountain forever, ever and ever and ever and ever. And oh, now it's come crashing down. I've started rolling down the mountain. The idea itself that we are meant to get to the top of the mountain and live there forever, or get to the top of anywhere and live there forever, that in and of itself is the thing that keeps us stuck. because that is creating, is attaching to, is believing a false thing. It's believing that we're not meant to experience everything. We're not meant to experience the, we can call them highs and lows, but be able to actually hold space for ourselves in all of it. Because we're trying to hold on too tightly to this idea of success, then often that's why something feels like it comes in and kind of knocks us down, just to remind us, no, you're meant to experience all of it. So it's not trying to be mean. It's not actually trying to hurt us, even though it can feel like it's just trying to remind us. So when we can kind of almost hold it all a little bit more lightly, it's a really powerful thing. It's a really powerful thing. Okay, I'm going to tell you, I actually just had to pause the recording for a moment. I know I totally didn't need to tell you. You wouldn't have even noticed, but I just have to tell you. I had a knock at the door and I was like, I really want to take this fucking parcel because I've been waiting for this. And yet, yes, I am in the bathtub. I know those of you who are watching the show right now can see me. Those of you who are listening might forget sometimes. I'm in the bathtub, guys. And I'm like, okay, I need to quickly throw a towel around my bottom half because yes, I'm wearing a bikini top, but I will just leave what's going on down below to your imagination. And so then I'm running down the stairs and I answer the door, and I think I just pretty much gave the postman, I kind of made his day. Let's just say that. I mean, someone answering the door in a bikini top and a towel around their waist in February in the UK is probably not what he's seeing a lot, right? So just to tell you that. Okay, where were we? I'm just going to call in that flow. There it is. We were talking about success and failure, right? We were talking about that light, that dark. We'd started with the idea that we have these programs running sometimes about wanting things to be perfect, wanting things to be a certain way, meeting our expectations before we can step forwards. And that absolutely feeds into this idea of success and failure. It's all kind of within the same energy. So fundamentally, why are we, and when I say we, I simply mean our ego selves, this humanness in us, why is it more afraid of success than failure? When it often feels so much like it's failure that we're afraid of, it's because it doesn't feel as familiar. It's because it doesn't understand really what that might look like. And so it's scared. And so even though we often think it's the failure we're fearing, that tends to be a program that's just like running over the top of this fear of success, because it's the easiest one for the ego to give us because it feels so obvious. Like, of course I'm scared of that. But actually, what we're more scared of is the success. So just for a moment, ask yourself the question, if I were to be wildly successful, what might that mean? What might that mean for me, for people around me, for what's going on? What might that mean? And you might straight away like feel, well, I am wildly successful, Joe. And straight away, that was what my kind of higher self just brought me. I feel wildly successful because I've chosen to feel wildly successful right now because I really understand for me what success means. And I have noticed what my ego wants to tell me about it. And I have recreated that on purpose from a place of a wide awake place. And so I do feel wildly successful. But even then, I can still notice and use the beautiful learning from tapping into what my ego wants to say about it. It might mean, Joe, that, what might that mean for like friends? Are your friends still gonna like be okay and like you? Like, say you were, were wildly rich, wildly famous, wildly whatever. And I'm not even necessarily saying that those things are particular goals of mine. They might be of yours. That's totally okay. But what I'm saying is, by actually recognizing that that's where the ego kind of wants to take it, like, what might that mean? People will leave me. People might not love me anymore. I might not actually then be a nice person? What if I become a total wanker from being wildly successful? Like, what might that mean? I might not even like myself anymore. Just recognizing all of those voices, and they are simply voices, thoughts that we do not have to attach to and believe at all. And if they're creating any pain in you, then don't, because they're fundamentally not true. But just noticing those voices really helps us to say, that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why I can sometimes really struggle to step forward on things, even things that feel really important to me, things that could be amazing for me. It's because the idea of them actually panning out, the idea of them actually working out and me being successful in them, the idea of that, it just scares. It scares my ego. It scares that child me. It scares that teenage me. It scares that mind and body, human personality, identity me. She's just scared. She's just a bit scared. And she's worried about what might happen. So when we ask ourselves that sort of question, then we can start to really do the work on purpose. We can start to notice and just soak up the learning that is being brought from those parts of ourselves. And then we can start to choose. We can choose what we actually want to believe instead. Even if we don't believe it right now, we can choose what we want to believe instead. And we can start to create and build that belief from a place of purpose, with purpose and on purpose. That, to me, is actually what true success looks like and feels like. True success for me is not reaching any egoic destinations. It's not getting to the top of a mountain. It's not creating a certain amount of money. It's not having a certain number of clients or followers or any of that sort of stuff. Success for me is embracing the hell out of the journey, embracing that journey. Success for me is noticing parts of myself that want to have their say and holding space for them and seeing them, hearing them and giving them some love, and still stepping forward and making a choice from a place of consciousness, from my soul. That, to me, the potential ups and downs of it all, embracing it all, that is true fucking inner success.
I'm so happy you joined me for a spiritual soaking. I don't know about you, but I am pruning up quite nicely here, so it's probably time to hop out. Make sure to hit the likes and subscribes and all that jazz, and I'll see you again soon for our next Tub Talks.